Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2022 West Virginia Cybersecurity and Game Developers Expo. I am Patrick Smith, and today we're kicking things off with a keynote from Danielle Cox. So, slide introductions here before we let Danielle do her keynote. Danielle is the Chief Information Security Officer with West Virginia's Office of Technology, where she manages the state's Security Operations Center, directs the risk management and vulnerability program, and identifies other risks to state data, personnel, applications, and systems. Additionally, she trains, plans, and implements cybersecurity education throughout the state's enterprise, and she's been a member of the cybersecurity team for 9 years. She has an additional 12 years of experience as a training coordinator in the legal industry, helping end users take full advantage of the available resources. And she has her BA with honors in business administration and computer information systems from University of Charleston, and a master's in technology management and information security from Marshall University. She holds certificates and certifications in as a certified information systems security professional, or CISSP, and a GIAC Systems and Network Auditor Specialist, or GSNA, as well as a Global Information Assurance Critical Controls Certificate, GCCC. That one almost got me. She's active in her community, volunteers regularly, and participates in raising service dogs for veterans. So please, everybody, welcome today our keynote speaker, Danielle Cox. Danielle, thank you so much for coming here and doing this for us. I'm excited to hear about what happened in the state. Well, maybe I'm excited, maybe I'm a little scared, but I'm sure you will calm our nerves. So I'll pull up your presentation and you can take it away.
Thanks, Patrick. I really appreciate it. Yeah, there's a little bit of good and a little bit of bad with everything, especially in the world of cybersecurity. What I'd like to do today is I want to talk a little bit about what my office does. What do we do? Why do we exist? What are we trying to do for the state as a whole? And how are we accomplishing that through our objectives? Then I want to talk a little bit about things that we see in a day from a cybersecurity perspective here at the state, and give you a little bit of idea of things we're doing on a regular basis and dealing with on a regular basis. So the cybersecurity office is actually one of the um, longest cybersecurity offices in the country. We were one of the first states to actually establish a cybersecurity office in law. So Executive Order 606, which so 2006 basically, is when the cybersecurity office was established, which is great for West Virginia. Um, it essentially divided the cyber house, into two areas: the Security Operations Center and then audit and compliance. And that's basically all we were doing at the time. We did standard incident response, firewall, a lot of web filtering, pretty typical, you know, new cybersecurity type activities. Audit and compliance did a lot of IRS compliance. That was a surprise when I first started in the industry, is how involved we would be in federal regulation audits. I honestly didn't know they existed until I started working at the state, which was interesting. But over the last, 16 years, we've really evolved the team. We're pretty like full in-house shop. Our security operations center does, network monitoring and the access to websites and firewalls and standard AV stuff. But we've also included web application scanning, which is something we didn't do when the team originally rolled out. Audits and admin, that area was responsible for the vulnerability scanning and all the government compliance regulations. We've also increased, and we do a lot more training of both government employees, outside organizations, and outreach presentations like this. So we can share that information out with the public and with potential, staff, people that might be interested in the field of cybersecurity, people trying to get their CLEs or continued learning education. So we do a lot of presentations. But now we're also involved in purchasing approvals, which I'm going to go in a little bit more detail. But one of the problems that we run into with cybersecurity is people don't think about it on the front end of their projects. And that's not just at the state level, that's across the world. No matter if you're private industry or public, people don't stop and think about the risks before going after a project. And then the governance aspect of our cyber team, we do the strategic architecture, policies and procedures, standards, things like requiring multi-factor authentication. Um, One of the newer areas that we've worked on recently is risk management. I'm going to talk a great deal about risk management. So when we look at in detail what all the team does, um, it's pretty expansive. We are covering most of the security domains in some way, shape, or form. We are working on frameworks. We're doing risk assessments. We're doing a lot of threat intel, especially now with some geopolitical issues. We're constantly looking at those factors, and we're doing security operations. Career development is one of the areas that I spend a lot of time working on, because the key to our success lies within my team, lies within the people that are performing these functions. And one of the things when we're talking to a group like this that might have a lot of people interested in new fields or new career switches is, how do you get involved? What really can I do? So our team, none of them started in security, not a single person. My background was originally in website development, web applications. I have ex-military members, and not from a IT military background, but like I'm carrying a gun background. Forensics is a retired CIO from a chemical company right now. We've got service desk personnel, field tech. um, We have networking people, telecommunications, people that come from like system management, managing SCCM. So the team is pretty varied, and that makes for a good solid team. You want to get that diversity throughout your security team. What happens sometimes is you tend to build teams around all security professionals, and that can pigeonholes you into one area, usually around forensics. One of the tools that I recommend people look at when they're thinking about cybersecurity or potentially wanting to get into the field or expand your current team is look at the pathways application that CISA has on their website. It's a cyber workforce tool, which is really great. It helps people understand how they can move from certain areas. And so what they've done is they've said, okay, here's where all the areas in IT and cyber overlap. Down here in the purple, you've got more cross-functional teams: lifecycle management, talent management, strategic management, and law enforcement. They have general IT, cyber intel. And so what this does is it maps out all the different fields. And you can go and say, okay, I'm a portfolio manager right now for an IT company. What areas can I bounce around in that might be in the cyber realm? Well, if you look, some straight relationships will be for, uh, you know, authorizing officials, which talks about like some of that procurement stuff and analyzing things before it gets purchased. So this is a great way to kind of see where you can make those lateral moves. It's a great tool. It will break down once you click on a field. It will break it down even more. It will tell you what those job responsibilities are, and you can compare jobs. So it's a great way to help your own career, or if you're a leader of a team, kind of see what areas you could potentially hire from. Because hiring right now is one of my biggest issues. And it's a countrywide issue, not just West Virginia, not just my team. In West Virginia itself, there's about 800 and some cybersecurity jobs available. Um, we have about 2,700 cyber workforce professionals. Obviously, we are in West Virginia, so our numbers aren't as in demand as some other areas right beside us, like this map will show you. Virginia, California, Texas, a lot of the big names that you expect to see have a lot more demand. One of the things that has really helped us, and we will talk in more detail, is COVID and the switch to remote workforce. Um, I'm going to talk a lot more in detail about that because we have some wonderful statistics on it. But this helps us even the playing field. I can now, with a remote workforce, potentially pull applicants from other states or other areas that I wouldn't be able to use before. So this is one good thing that we are happy to see happening. Now, in West Virginia specifically, at least for my office, we have four big issues, four big objectives. First one is we want to establish cybersecurity is a serious issue. We don't want to use the word problem. Problem makes it sound like you can fix it, like a one and done and cybersecurity issues go away. And that's not how it works. So we want to make sure that we establish it as a serious issue and that people understand, especially leadership, that there is a technical and business issue when it comes to cybersecurity. And the way you deal with that is through a cyber risk management approach. Then we'll talk about some of the critical success factors when it comes to the cyber risk management program itself. So this is an initiative that we have been working on for the last handful of years. That cybersecurity is a serious issue. We are also turning off our phone. Our soft phone is ringing. So cybersecurity is a serious issue. We've had issues in the news in the last 10 years that kind of really started the cybersecurity trend, the focus in the media and cybersecurity. A lot of government entities have really kicked us off. The most notable would be South Carolina. There was a critical vulnerability that was not patched, and it cost the state a lot of money. It cost people their careers, and it really started this trend in the last 10 years to start focusing on that cyber risk. Then you had Target, and Target's a great example because Target emphasizes the importance of vendor management. That breach happened because the third party's HVAC service provider was compromised. So vendor management gets pulled into the picture. And then you have, which this one always is interesting because it's came back up again, Ukraine's power grid. In 2015, 700,000 went without power because of a cyber attack on critical infrastructure. We're at risk. The country is at risk for that again. The world in general is not prepared for a major cyber attack against the um, electrical grid. So they are not alone. And then you start getting into the ransomware. So originally it was just, okay, we're getting compromised, data's getting taken out. Then it was, oh, we're getting compromised, our services are being taken out. Now you reach this fun new area where the ransomware starts to sneak in. And then you get web-facing apps that have vulnerabilities like Equifax, which everybody got compromised with Equifax, basically. The ransomware seems to have taken root and held on. every organization, every industry has dealt with it at some way. You've got retail stores that get taken out by it. You've got ATMs and banks that get locked out, and even grocery stores that um, have been struck by ransomware. And when ransomware hits, it's not like you have a bad day or even a bad weekend. You have a bad year. It takes countless hours and a lot of money to recover from a ransomware attack, especially if your entity is not appropriately prepared. Now, I go to conferences, a lot of different conferences. I talk to a lot of different other state CISOs, and I talk to officials and business leaders within the community. And it's interesting because sometimes the response I get is that we're West Virginia. Nobody wants to hack West Virginia, or West Virginia is not on anybody's radar. The bottom line is, yeah, we are. Just because you're in West Virginia doesn't mean you're not on anybody's radar. Bad actors, especially nation state actors from other countries, they don't care if you're West Virginia or California. Um, you're just a target in the US, and that's all they need to know. And so West Virginia does have regular attacks, estimated about 3 million, targeted attacks a day in West Virginia. Statistic, it's hard to find exact statistics, but about 2.5 critical vulnerabilities per device between businesses, governments, private sector, that type of stuff. The problem is most companies don't have the correct knowledge to stop these attacks. They don't have a lot of resources, and they don't have a lot of ability when they do have IT staff. So it is a West Virginia issue, and it is something that we are working on addressing. One of the ways we address it is through spend, which is interesting because nobody wants to spend money on cybersecurity issues until after an incident happens. And when I say when you have an issue, when you have an incident, you better take full advantage of it. If you're in a position to push for more funding or more resources, and you've just suffered an incident, that's your best opportunity. These surveys were done. Deloitte does a survey between all the state CIOs and state CISOs. I think they do it every two years. And I want to update this because I've always liked this survey they've done. They've done it, I think they've done it for the last six or 7 or 8 years. I want to update it. And it wasn't worth redoing the screen captures because the information hadn't changed. So for the last 4 years, 6 years, we have stayed in about the same rankings. The barriers are the same. We lack the funding. We lack the security professionals. We still don't have the documented processes. The threats are increasing, and we have no visibility into parts of our systems. So those 5 areas are still being dealt with. And typically, and this is the one that gets a little sad, out of your IT budget, on average, governments spend 1 to 2% of an IT budget on cybersecurity. So that is very low. So when you do ask for funding, you got to be specific on what you're asking for, and you've got to spend it wisely. So that's why one of the goals that we've done in West Virginia is try to connect that technical and business issue together. We saw a lot of it in the last 2 years. We've moved into the stage where instead of being in line all the time, we're online. And government was working on it. Government moves a lot slower than private sector. government was in the middle of that transformation from physical services to online services, and then COVID happened in 2020, and that really made people have to kind of hurry on up. DMV is a great example, I think, here in West Virginia. I haven't like physically went to the DMV in years and years, even before COVID. But basically, instead of being in line, you're now online. DMV has self-service as opposed to like standing in line and sitting in all those chairs at the DMV. Now, that old model, you know, had a lot of it had high customer dissatisfaction. Everybody hates the DMV. I mean, that's not a West Virginia thing. That's just like a universal, everybody had to hate it. Uh, Customers weren't empowered to utilize government services. So now you're seeing a trend, and DMV is one of at least the state's entities that did it first. They switched to this more self-service module. It's a little easier to use. You don't have to wait in that line, and they've redone all their branding to match that. And you'll see other states are doing it. We're not that different. But one thing that people forget about is when you move to this model, there are challenges, and there are a lot of challenges when it comes to security. You have unexpected consequences. Um, so if you don't think about those security issues, you know, you might have data breaches, you might have unintended consequences, bad publicity, all that type of stuff needs to be thought about before you implement a solution. But this is the thing that citizens see basically. You have this really great expectation because you get a free Gmail account. Google doesn't charge you anything. You don't have to pay for it. Um, but the government reality of the equivalent is not nearly as great. So we're constantly dealing with this. Okay, this is what everybody's expecting. This is what we can actually push out with our current resources. And then trying to find some happy ground, which is rough. So that's why the business and IT relationship is so important. We have to make sure we are meeting the needs of the business, the needs of the citizen, and still ensuring that cybersecurity. So with that, business drives the IT goals. What does business want? They want it to be fast. They want it to keep the cost down. Operationally, they want to limit the costs and they just want to keep it working. But when we throw in cybersecurity, make it fast, but make it fast with the appropriate risks. Some risk is perfectly acceptable. An agency might have a certain risk appetite and they're willing to accept certain losses. Um, If you're going to manage your IT, keep it working, but make sure there's still protections in place. So doing that, we need to understand how cyber risk management works. And that's one of my team's big focuses is nothing will ever be 100% secure. It's impossible. You don't ask somebody if a house is fireproof. It just doesn't happen. So what you have to do is learn how to manage cyber risk through this business engagement, which is really hard for a lot of IT people. A lot of us got into the business of IT because we weren't the best security or we weren't the best people persons. We didn't want to deal with people. Um, but if you don't deal with the people, you won't really succeed. So let's talk about cyber risk management. First decision we have, let's do a decision scenario. So an agency has a critical application. It contains restricted data. That software has a critical vulnerability and it can be fixed. That's great. But the problem is it costs money, people, and time. The app has to be unavailable for so long. So that leaves certain data exposed. Who gets to make the risk decision in your organization? Do you know who's currently making that risk decision? If you don't, that's kind of where you need to look at, okay, risk decision making and who's making that cyber risk decision. Simple tasks even come down to cyber risk management. Let's say you need to transfer data from one agency to another agency, and the data is critical, and it's currently maintained in what would be considered a well-protected system. Not 100% secure, obviously, but well protected nonetheless. How do you do it? What do you, how do you transfer that data? Do you do it through a third party? Do you put it on a personal cloud? Do you do it on business cloud? Do you put it on removable media like thumb drives? We had one wonderful example of an organization that had a backup necklace. I don't know what else to call it. It was like, it kind of looked like a tribal necklace. Um, where it's depicted where it's like teeth, except instead of teeth, it was USB drives on this necklace. And they referred to it as the backup necklace. And that's how they were currently storing files. Um, did business leadership know they were storing files that way? Probably not. Would they care? Yes. Um, so making those decisions, even the basic ones, is really important. So you have to have kind of a framework around what is acceptable to us as an organization when it comes to risk, which which data can be risk. So that's when it comes down to risk assessments. Um, you want to look at risk assessments and say, okay, we've got threats to our systems, we've got vulnerabilities that are occurring, and we have our assets. Where all that overlaps basically is the risk you're willing to deal with or that you have to deal with. All right. So when you do a cybersecurity risk assessment, this is what it ends up looking like. Basically, things that are in low risk, great, low likelihood. Um, you have your risk appetite. That's the worst set of probabilities. Basically, what's the worst that can happen that we're willing to deal with? And then we have our risk tolerance, which is our least preferred um, loss that we want to deal with. And when you break it out into pictures, because I think pictures are a little easier to understand, essentially you've got all these systems. Most organizations, and what our current model was before we started risk management principles, was you had so much money that could do so much protection against the elements. And depending on where those systems were or those applications were, they kind of all got treated the same, and they got generic protections across all of them, which is fine and dandy. But some of them were still getting rained on, and you didn't know what was actually important, what was not important, what had good security posture, what had basic advanced security posture. And then within specifically governments, you have this thing called shared risk. And you get this in private sectors too, or local governments. It's basically all these interconnections that exist that aren't documented. So to account for all that, you use a risk management framework, and you reorganize and reclassify all your data and systems. And the ones that need higher protection get more resources, higher level of security, and it goes down from there. And you create that structure, and you make sure that every system that gets spun up has the appropriate protections and the data classified. And to be successful, at least in our organization, basically have a framework that we use where we focus on three main areas: the workforce, the state government itself, and the critical infrastructure throughout the state. We engage, educate, adapt, and act. That's our kind of like mantra that we repeat over and over. We engage our stakeholders, we educate wherever we can, we adapt where needed, and we act to identify things. So that's a nice little brief overview of what all we're doing, the kind of overall plan for how we function. When we go through the day, it comes out a little different. We have to handle situations as they arise and kind of integrate that risk management principle throughout the day, which is always fun. So I work from my work hours are from 8:30 to 4:30. Obviously, I work on both ends of that. So this is a great example of a day. Okay, 7:30 in the morning. I am not awake. I am not out of my bed yet. And the what I call my warning alarms start going off that we've got a high priority help desk ticket that has came in at 7:30 in the morning from an agency personnel that says one of our servers is being hacked. Okay. Well, given the current geopolitical issues that we are dealing with Ukraine and Russia, you wake up really fast when you get that type of message, whether or not it's legitimate or not. You see it, you're instantly awake. It's go time. Let's go do something. So I shoot up out of bed, and because our current situation with Russia and Ukraine, things are a little elevated right now. We're on high alerts. We don't have direct threat intel from any federal government or entity right now. Um, Essentially, the guidance from the government has been to maintain current protection, implement multi-factor, and patch things, which we do on a regular basis. Um, and then be on the alert for some particular um, threat intel, but not much. So yeah, we are prepared. We are ready. When we get any type of notification that an incident has potentially happened, is happening, or will be happening, we have a very routine process that we go through. Um, we identify, prepare, detect, respond, resolve. This is a standard protocol that a lot of organizations use, recommended by NIST and CISA. Here's the thing. Step 1 and step 2 are really important for me. If step 3 has already happened and my team is not the one detecting it, I'm usually already in a bad mood because have we missed something? Like, that's almost my concern. Like, what did we miss? Where did we fail? Like, I'm immediately thinking, oh no, worst case scenario, what's happening? So when we get a notification and we know an incident is going to have to be responded to, there's a lot of different things that could potentially happen. We do have a CSERT team in West Virginia, and it's great. We have been working together for 10 years now. Um, we have my security operations team. We have external organizations that we work with. We have internal organizations we work with. One thing that a lot of people new to the industry don't realize is that when you have an incident, it's not just a bunch of IT people fixing the problem. I have a plethora of attorneys, there's the entire privacy team, we have a risk management team, we have governor's office, um, communications teams, we have other IT departments, and then sometimes we have a third party. And it's a lot of people doing a lot of different things depending on the incident. And when it comes to incidents, we do get a lot of them, and we get different types. We get everything from stolen or lost phones, stolen lost laptops, mailing issues, disclosures and intentional and unintentional disclosures, sensitive information disclosures. Um, so yeah, and we deal with that range of incidents. We deal with anywhere from 100 to 250 a year. Some of them are serious issues, and some of them are, okay, they shoved two letters in the same envelope, and so somebody got somebody else's PII. The CSERT team still responds to that. It's just not as intense as, my server's being hacked. One of the things that West Virginia does have currently, and we were actually one of the first states to get it, is cyber insurance. And cyber insurance, people don't really understand what that is. Um, but for West Virginia, it means we have a breach coach. It means that we have somebody on staff that or on call that understands all the different laws from different states, because some states have laws about their citizen data that differ from other states, and we have to respect that. We have breach coverage. So if there is a breach, they can spin up a call center, they can spin up all the documentation that needs to go out. And they can also do a little bit of what's called a risk transfer, where you're actually transferring some of the risk to them when they have to make a decision. We haven't really used that much. There's also interactions we'll do with cyber attackers for us if we want to find out more information about the particular attackers. So it's really fun. It's interesting. Um, what it isn't, though, it's not leadership support. It doesn't take the place of effective practices. It doesn't take the place of your due diligence to actually update stuff. If you leave stuff outdated and you get attacked, your cyber insurance probably isn't going to pay for it. So you still have to do risk assessment and mitigation. And to keep our insurance rates down, we require everybody that uses our insurance to do training, to do certain basic cybersecurity principles. This particular, my server is getting hacked. Before I even fully got awake, my team had already let me know that no, it wasn't getting hacked. Somebody saw our vulnerability scanner was hitting their server. Mind you, our vulnerability scanning program is probably one of our oldest programs. We've had it going for 7 or 8 years now. So nothing new. I guess it was new to that person. They got a little hyperactive and reported it, which is fine. I'd rather somebody report something than be like, oh, look at that. That looks suspicious, and then walk away. So that's fine. Great. I can go back to sleep for another 30 minutes. 9 o'clock, I've started to check my email, and I get this wonderful message. I get more of these than I care to admit. It we have a server and we don't want it patched. Now, there are legitimate reasons to maybe not have a server patch automatically and automatically restart and stuff, but not all the time. So there has to be a risk decision made. Now, I'm giving you an example here. These are not real numbers. These are fudge numbers from our system, but they are screen captures from the system. It's just they're not real. Don't forget. So this is what we look at before we make any decisions. We have to have our data. You can't make risk-based decisions if you don't have the data. And our vulnerability management program lets us have that data. In this example that we have, this was fudge numbers from way back where we had Windows 7 still in the enterprise. It will give us our tool that we currently use Insight, which is Rapid7, will give us a breakdown of all of our assets on a little graph. And the ones at the end of this little comet trail, those are what we call our problem children. Those are the ones where the vulnerabilities per asset score is highest. Those are the ones we need to fix. The risk score goes up if they have certain criteria. If they have public facing, that's obviously a higher risk. If they have multiple people connecting to the device, that's more of a risk. So first thing I do when somebody says, hey, we want an exemption from a standard policy, I come in, I look, and I see, how's the server look right now? are they maintaining it? Are they doing what they should? And if they're in this little circle, it's probably not happening. I'm just throwing that out there. But we will look at it and we will see what the system is doing. We will also look and see, okay, has it been scanned from our application scanner, or does it have a dynamic and static scan against the application that it's running? And are they fixing those mistakes? If the answer is no, then you're not getting exempted. You have to show that you're doing what it takes to protect the system if you're not going to use the automatic controls. And so to connect that, remember we talked earlier about business and technical, it's important for leadership to actually see what's existing. So we do reports, and this is an example. It's not a real agency. This is examples of a report we would give an organization. We would take all their devices and break it down for them. We'd show them how many laptops, how many desktops, network devices, servers, printers, how many employees they're managing with those people, how many public websites they have. And then we'll give them statistics, okay? No call laptops. These are devices that maybe haven't called in or haven't connected to the internet in so many days, usually 60 days. This was a really critical feature when COVID happened 2 years ago, when agencies would come and say, hey, we need laptops for our people, we're out. And we could go back and say, hey, you've got 220 that haven't turned on in 90 days. Why don't you pull them out of storage and we can reimage them? And so then we have infrastructure systems. And this is where we talked about, the target attack with the HVACs. Yeah. Organizations have HVACs, door locks, CCTVs, other control systems, blind systems. There was a private business that had a blind system that was connected to the internet. Why your blinds need connected to the internet, I do not know, but they were all secured with default passwords, and anybody could access them. So that's something that organizations need to know. So we would give them reports. The other thing that these statistics do is it lets IT people and security people know where your baseline is and where a trend is happening. So new versus remediated vulnerabilities. So I can see the growth, I can see the patterns. Okay. I can look and I can say, oh, things look like they're not getting patched here at this stage. And I can pull up like a particular asset and look at its score and be like, oh yeah, no, there's no downward trend. It's not getting patched. There's something foundationally wrong with this device. And so that's what we look at when we make these risk-based decisions. Like, no, your server, in this instance, the risk score keeps climbing. I'm not going to exempt it until you guys show that you have a policy and procedure in place that can fix this. And so, yeah, we can also do this by agencies, that type of stuff. We can look at all the total servers they have. So these statistics help us make decisions. Talked about that stuff. Secure everything. Again, this is the stuff we have to stay on top of because it gets overlooked. Vendor devices, HVAC, door access, phone system, security system, Apple TVs, networking devices, all that stuff has to be secure. These are the fun emails. So around noon, I get this email from one of my staff, and all that says is, can we disable their emails? I'm sorry, what? Okay, sure. And I'm like, what? Then I get a screen capture. I'm like, okay, so at some point you're gonna have to fill me in on the joke. Well, user issues. My guys, love them to death. We all, as IT professionals, run into user issues. This is going to happen. This particular staff member They are one of the guys that does our phishing tests. We fish 20,000 employees on a regular basis, which is all kinds of interesting because you have IT professionals to temps to interns to seasoned secretaries to engineers. And so when we first started doing phishing tests like 6 or 7 years ago, it was painful. It was painful for all of us. We'd fish 20,000 people. We targeted anywhere 35, 40% at a time because we didn't want to overwhelm agencies. Initially, we get 16% of people that clicked, and then out of that 16%, 33 of those people, 33% would actually provide credentials. We have lowered those rates substantially now, which is great. When they did fail, they were forced to take training, which anytime you force training on people, they kind of push back. And then people that took training were only getting 84%. So these were the initial results. That's what responded. That's why my staff was like, can we just take their email away? Well, no, we have to train them more. We have to train them more, and we have to figure out a way for them to get less phishing. We have to do something. So that's what we did. We went and we focused on training. We focused on the systems that we had that we could significantly reduce spam and phishing, and we did that. And now our click rate, I think, on most phishing tests is less than 3%, which is great. It's well below the average. So that's our new normal. And then our new normal changed a lot in the last 2 years. I think everybody's new normal changed. This is a timeline of COVID 2020. This first week in March 13th through the 17th, that's when everything changed in our area. We went from a footprint like this. This is a geolocation of all devices, at all state government laptops and desktops. This is what we're currently managing. And then the next day, it went to this. That is a significant increase in area. That comes with a lot of extra work. The organization, the workforce was now spread out over this whole entire region. And IT people, I don't think if you weren't in the business, you really don't know the true impact of COVID in IT. But we went from 5.3 tickets to 7.8 tickets per tech. March alone, we had 13,000 tickets come in, which is a lot for our organization. It did go back down to about a little less than 11,000, but after 2020, it stayed up. It did not go down. So now we're averaging around 11 or 12. So the trend stayed. And this means different stuff for IT. It means a lot of different stuff for security. Sign-ins went down and eventually came back up. Emails had this slight increase, then a decrease, and then it leveled out. So that was great. But you went from an organization that maybe at max had 200 VPN users on a holiday to 2,500 basically overnight. We had to spin up an entirely new VPN system to support that. Most states did. A lot of organizations did. We even were accessing files differently. We didn't have a big presence for end users' files in the cloud before the COVID happened. So yeah, here's our stats. This line right here is when the work from home order initially hit, and here's how it's been the last 2 years, steadily climbing. Group communication tools, same thing. So When each of these new tools rolls out, though, security has to be at the forefront. And we were fortunate enough, our current CIO is the past CISO, so he understands. He lets us get out in front of these things. He lets us put the security controls in place before new tools get rolled out. And you got to do that, even when it's on a time crunch. If you don't, you will probably regret it and have incidents. One thing COVID did was change the speed at which it's acceptable to roll out applications. So everybody did have to move faster. I think a great example was kind of like our workforce program. Um, on average day, they would receive like 100 calls during work hours. During the beginning of COVID, they were receiving 18,000 an hour. Even at 1, 2, 3 a.m., they were receiving 3,000 calls an hour, which, you go from 0 to 3,000. It's insane. It's a lot. And so that application development, security, the project management to roll all these applications out had to double, triple, quadruple in some cases. Things like Kids Connect initiative we helped with. Again, we got out in front of it from a security perspective to make sure education had all the tools they needed to ensure secure connection for kids, because there are certain rules around that. And I think, yeah, there was 790 devices, Wi-Fi devices pushed out across the state within a month. And that was something that even required physical access. Now, here's where it's great. So our office now has a very flexible remote work policy. We go in when we need to. And one of the reasons why is because they proved in 2020, 2021, and 2022 that they can perform their tasks remotely. Um, it was a cost savings for most of our employees because they weren't having to drive. On average, our employees were saving $50 to $150 a week just in gas alone. So when things did start opening back up, we did have a implement a really flexible remote work policy, which is great. So yeah, that was one of the things we really liked. So next call I get is, hey, your bill's on the agenda for today at 2. So to get things done in state government, it's a little different than private sector. You got to get a lot of like laws and rules passed. One of the laws that we got passed was the Secure West Virginia Act. It made it a requirement for the state government entities to basically use cyber risk management. And we used a fire module. We used very little IT communication. Um, IT jargon to really explain what the issue was. Basically, if your house is on fire, you don't make it fireproof. You put all these processes and procedures in place. You use all of these preventative measures to stop your house from burning down. It's not a guarantee, but it's a lot better than nothing. So that's kind of the fundamental theme of our legislation that we passed. And then that was in 2020, 2019. It went into effect 2020. And then last year, we put in a law that says all government entities in the state, whether it's state, city, county, school, whatever, has to report high level cyber events, severe and high or emergent. Anything that's life and limb, impacts citizens, is a risk to public health, they have to report it to my office. That does not mean we're taking over for that entity, but it does mean it's going to get reported, and we're going to like at least provide you information that says, hey, if you need help, here are some resources. So we're really excited. That took effect at the end of last year. And we are seeing progress from it, which is great. come back from legislation, then I get this message, hey, there's a bunch of military guys in the lobby for you. Okay. It's either military guys in the lobby for me or, hey, the FBI's out front. You work with a lot of different organizations when you're dealing in cybersecurity. One of the organizations we work with, and he's going to speak later, is the Secretary of State's office. We support them in conjunction with the Guard and the Fusion Center for election security, and he's going to talk about that. But that's just one of the areas that we consider our outreach. We want to provide resource and information and threat intel where needed. We also want to do training exercises with these people. Because if a major cyber incident happens in the state, you want to already know the people you're going to work with. So I think my day is getting ready to wrap up, and I get this one last one. Hey, from a third party, there's data for sale on the dark web. Well, look, it's not the states. Yay. It is an organization, so I'll go tell them it's a local government, so I'll give them a call. And then I get put on hold because the IT director is currently cutting the grass and he can't talk to me about the data that's for sale on the dark web. That's fine. But this right here is why we got the law passed, because an organization that's that small, that doesn't have a dedicated IT person, they might need that incident response help. They might need the Guard to come in and do an assessment. So that is why we passed that other law. And then as my day is wrapping up, I get a reminder that I haven't done my get the young ones into cyber duty. We participate in a calendar contest every year, and kids from K through 12 draw and decorate poster contests that are then used for advertising materials across the country. And we vote on it. Obviously, we can't vote our own states, but all the states compete, and then we send in the winners, and they form a calendar. And so that's something that we do. We also do Girls Go Cyber Start. We promote that program to try to get more involvement in the youth into our program. So I vote for the kids, I see what art we like the best, and then I wrap up the day by preparing for the next day's presentation. So that's my wonderful world in cybersecurity. Do we have any questions, comments, inquiries about what we're doing?
I'm going to put out the call here to everybody to ask if they have them here.
And I put my link, hey, we're hiring.
Well, yeah, I would say based on all the influx you talked about having there, about everybody being needed there, I could imagine you're hiring more people. Suddenly your call volume, you said you're
Yeah.
leveled off at 12,000 tickets a day?
It was 12,000 a month.
Oh, okay.
Which we average usually around 6,500. That was our typical average.
Yeah, so
And
you're
now
at
it's
200%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean the IT staff, they pulled their weight. I mean, it was because none of the programs for the state roll out without IT behind them, especially when you're in a remote situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we were spinning up new applications for workforce for COVID, getting the workforce from the other agencies up and working remotely, setting up different call centers. It's been a busy 2 years.
Well, I know you talked about like how you suddenly had to ramp up come March 2020. With respect to, maybe it's too soon now to see, but like has your call volume increased because of the Russian Ukraine situation now? Because suddenly, I guess Russia's, if they weren't already eyeing us, they're like taking a much more dedicated eye towards us.
Yeah, Russia's always had Russia and China have always been our top two like threat actors that we kind of protect against. They have some specific vulnerabilities that they have been known to take advantage of the Russian state actors. And we have reached out. I mean, obviously, we patched our own stuff, but we've reached out to other organizations within the state that might have public facing information that is at risk.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the workload's increased. We're at that elevated status. What the elevated status gives me specifically is a little more leeway to break things for the security of the state. Um, I I will turn off something that might disable something for an agency before I risk it being compromised. And we tell our agency directors, hey, there is an active war and there's a cyber war going on in the background that we have to be aware of. And if I have to turn off something because the federal government's given us threat intel, I will turn it off and I will ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, they're giving you the proverbial rights to pull the power plug on the entire server rack, huh?
Yeah, basically. Uh,
Yeah.
and we've done that because we've learned that because we have, you know, we've protected them so far. We're pretty honest with them. We tell them it's coming. We give them status updates. Um, so when we do have to do something like that, they know it's serious. It's a real threat.
Right. Well, I know one of my students mentioned something the other day, and I thought, a lot of people that may be watching this may not be cybersecurity experts. Maybe we'll have people in business watch this who are wanting to learn some stuff. And I didn't know when she mentioned it to me that her company was actually going to be having a like a security audit / penetration test that the CISA
Mhm.
rep was going to be able to do. So like you can totally have them come in and help make sure to see how secure you are with the security audit basically, and that's a free service, so that's great.
Yep. CISA, our cybersecurity infrastructure security advisor, West Virginia has a new um, appointee here in West Virginia, so we have a dedicated CISA rep who helps coordinate all that within the state. Now the pen test, there is like a 4 to 6 month wait on it. I think you have to sign up and register for it.
Hmm.
But they'll come in and do assessments. We've had them do assessments here at the state. They have a whole range of specific assessments, both technical and process wise, and they'll give you like a roadmap to how to improve your organization. And for governments, the West Virginia National Guard will also do those type of assessments. We've participated in those as well.
I
Any
just
free
thought,
assessment I'm taking advantage of.
yeah, I just thought that was, I didn't know about that, so then I wondered how many businesses out there who may not even be listening to the cybersecurity talk that's out there had no clue about that. So I thought that was a great opportunity.
Yeah, I wanted to get him on here, but it was a little for him. He had already been booked for today. So,
Sure.
but yeah, I have his contact. If anybody wants to get in touch with him, just shoot me a message
Okay.
and
Yeah,
I'll get it to him.
I'm gonna pull your contact stuff up here just a second again, so people can see that, and also see that you are definitely hiring,
Yes,
and
we're a
and
fun group.
well, and the thing I love about the idea too is, definitely the West Virginia Office Technology is probably going to be people from West Virginia, but it the battle needs to be fought here as well as everywhere else. So when so many people are talking about, I want to get an IT job, but I guess I'm going to have to leave the state. You don't. The biggest focus today for both sides of the tracks we're doing is to show like these are working professionals who are here still in the state, and they didn't have to leave and go anywhere. There's definitely jobs and things to be done here. So
I've lost 2 employees to a company down in the middle of Charleston they're offering twice as much as the state can offer. The difference is between private sector and government sector. Some organizations can go their entire career in private sector and not face like a major targeted cyber attack. In
hmm.
government, you'll be lucky if you make it a month
Right.
and not deal with that. So it's definitely a different like type of work you're comfortable doing. And, I support my guys and we train them up. And if they want to go elsewhere, I support that. And some stay and some go. So
I might, I might make an analogy to that, to where, like, technically you could work for a mom and pop place. You could be their IT person, and you could learn their technologies they've had for 10 years and going to have for the next 10 years. Or you could, like, work for a managed service provider and be dealing with a brand new task every day and a new challenge. So I would think at the state level, yeah, you're dealing with new fires to put out every day, and that's going to be exciting, probably daunting, but exciting. But you'd really be exposed to a lot, and
yep.
have a fun, maybe slightly stressful time at it, but never a dull moment, I'm sure.
No, we are never bored. We are never without a lack of work. So we enjoy it. It's a good field if you want to get some work in, and you want to really challenge yourself, because there are challenges. A lot of government systems are older than my staff. So yeah, it's interesting. And some of them are, brand new, working with cloud providers. So it's a range. I mean, the technology gap between like the oldest system and the most recent system is amazing.
I think we have a former graduate of ours has been working up there for many years, and I believe he's working on, at the time, it was an AS400. So, uh,
I think they
Scott, you
finally
knew
got
those
rid of
well back then.
I think we
Oh
finally
yeah,
got rid of all the old
Okay.
yeah.
picks. Oh gosh, those are they
The
give
end of
my
an
whole team anxiety.
Well, did you say, do you have any affiliation with the DMV? Because speaking of old systems,
it should have more
We
than
do
that.
manage the cyber infrastructure. So the way the state works is any consolidated services like network security, tech support kind of is managed through the Office of Technology, and then each agency is responsible for their own like application.
Josh brings up a good point. We should call them legacy systems.
No, I like to call them old. Legacy makes them sound like they're getting extra love or something. I don't know. We have an ongoing discussion about that.
I mean, they could call them grandfathered systems, because they're probably as old as your grandfather.
I
Well,
just call them archaic.
the DMV used to be on the state mainframe. Is that still the case? Is that
Parts
their
of
back
it.
end? Yeah,
Parts of it, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when you talk about legacy, I think old myself, because I actually did a lot of the the gateways for the 3270 sessions at the different agencies back in the day, when they were first wanting to get on to the mainframe through 3270 sessions across the internet, and get
There was
rid of front end controllers and all that.
there was once I mean, we came across one time a language that it wasn't in any of my team's like computer science history books, when they talk about like the COBOL and the older language. It wasn't even listed in there. We had to like go, what is this? Like, what is this language? So yeah, some of those days it just makes you, it's like, okay, yeah, this has got to go. Um, yeah, and then you just, you deal with that and you get rid of it and you move to the next. And, in 20 years, they'll be saying that about our cloud infrastructure. So
Yeah,
But
it's one big circle.
it is. It is.
Scott, would you think it'd be Ada? I feel like you've talked about Ada before.
I I have no idea. Um, I
I think it was older
we
than
talk
that.
about the cloud, but really mainframe computing was the cloud. Back in the day. So what's new is old and old is new.
Yeah,
I think the way Battlestar Galactica said it, all this has happened before, and all this will happen again.
That's right.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Well, yeah, I'm so impressed with everything you all do up there at the state, and I like to be able to shine a light to be like, look at this, look at the amount of work they're doing, look at the amount of experiences and attacks they're fending off, and you could just drive up the road and you'd have the opportunity to be able to join that team and be able to have that cutting edge experience here right in
Don't
our
even
own
have to
backyard.
drive. You don't even have to drive.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
true. I didn't
We're
think
not.
about that.
We're 90% remote. I mean, my guys wanted to come in next week, so they're like, "We're having a team day." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, you know, I always kind of warn my students down. I'm like, you know, keep in mind, most places may be cool with you working remote. They may want to get like, they may want to size you up and make sure you got the work ethic for that potentially. But then potentially right now, especially with the situation we've been in for the last 2 years, there's a good opportunity to let you go remote once they make sure you're not just going to lay on the couch all day and put a webcam on you and not answer the phone or whatever.
Yeah, we have some we have some general understanding. Like, if I need you to come in, I don't want anybody to like complain. I don't want to hear it. And the guys are great about it. Like they don't. They go in more than they have to. They volunteer to go in to do things that could wait until next week. So
So
Did I see that one statistic that you had there? 3.2 million attacks daily in the state. Was that right?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. It's probably gone up this year. That was last year's numbers. I haven't done, obviously I haven't like, I don't do halfway statistics, like mid-year statistics. So
And so when you track those, are the majority of those coming from China?
China, Russia, India. Yeah.
Yeah.
Foreign actors usually. I mean, we do get a fair share of US-based ones. You never know who's technically hiding from IP addresses, but the majority of them are the typical foreign actors that you would expect.
So you mentioned, you know, you all are definitely hiring right now. You mentioned the fact that you are allowing work from home. In in this little bit here, while I can pop back up your stuff, can you tell people out there the type of people you're looking for, skill wise, education wise, that type of thing, to where if some former students and people out there who are in industry are like, I would like to do this, but I don't know what they're expecting.
So we are hiring 2 information security officers, which is our entry-level security position. It does require a little bit of IT skill. Like, you have to kind of know, like, have some experience in IT in general. Am I looking to hire a specific security person? No. Every SOC does things differently. Every security organization does things differently. I would rather somebody be a self-starter, have a foundation understanding of the ISO model, basically like, how does the computer work? How does it interact with the network? Be trainable. That's the biggest thing. Leroy manages my SOC for me, and that's we'll take somebody that's straight out of school if they are willing to work and willing to be trained, um, and are go-getters. That's more important to us than any type of certification. We'll get you certifications. We'll send you to training. We'll make sure you take all the class. So those positions are going to be in 2 areas. One, vulnerability management. Um, we have a very expansive program. We need somebody to help manage that part. We have 1 staff member over it, and I need a backup for that. And then we have a position in our SOC, which will do like a range of things: endpoint protection, network protection, and our backup forensics. So that'll be a more technical position. And then we have a position that we will be hiring. It's not out on the board yet. That is an entry-level IT position. And that'll be for somebody that doesn't have any IT experience, that is straight out of school and wants to get into maybe cyber. And so they will basically be our IT person within cyber, because we have systems that need updated and managed. We have IT needs in cyber. And so I figured that would be a way to get them involved with the team, kind of understand everything that was going on, and then they could move up within the team.
So I have a quick question here. Do you have any specific IE positions?
Uh, no,
No.
not at this, no, not at this time.
Well, if you had, like, you know, if you were doing information assurance, is that a certain wheelhouse? Do you all call that something differently to where people are trying to keep a lookout there on the boards to see what you call
Yeah.
that position?
So that would be one of our that would fall under the cyber risk governance program. We will be expanding that program. They will most likely still be what we consider ISOs, and then we'll post the particular like responsibilities for that job. All of our
Okay.
positions are what we consider information security officers or ISOs. It's just what they're doing. And
Okay.
everybody on our team cross trains. So
Okay. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for coming and keynoting for us and talking about the, the real threats that are happening here in the state, but the fact that like we have tons of positions where people can go ahead and get trained up here and go in, or like you said, a lot of positions, they can come in with some limited knowledge and you can help get them trained up and certified to go ahead and tackle everything. Once again, I mean, here in your own backyard, but also potentially from your own couch at this point. So
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Always
thank
appreciate
you
it.
very much.
Love coming talking with you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.